You've been in a cave for 4 days. No hunt, no fire from scratch if this one dies. And outside, something big is also hiding from the rain, 3 feet away on the other side of a rock. That's not a movie pitch. That's Tuesday, 50,000 years ago. Welcome back to Chillstix. Today we're going deep into what rain actually meant for early humans, and why the boredom you feel on a rainy day is a luxury your ancestors never had. For you, rain means closing the window, making coffee, and sinking into the couch with Netflix. It's white noise. It's cozy. You might not even make it through the episode. For a human 50,000 years ago, that same sound could kill you 3 different ways before it even stopped. First, cold. A wet human loses body heat up to 25 times faster than a dry one. Without clothing or waterproof shelter, a long storm in anything below about 50 degrees F could drop your core temperature into hypothermia range within hours. And most of the world our ancestors lived in got that cold at night, even in parts of Africa during the wet season. Second, flooding. Most early shelters sat near rivers or at the base of hillsides, so heavy rain meant flash floods. Archaeologists have found thick layers of flood sediment inside occupied caves, sediment that shows the water came in while people were still living there. Some of those caves were never used again. And third, and maybe worst, predators. Rain drove animals into shelter too, and sometimes that shelter was your shelter. At sites in South Africa, human remains and large cat remains turn up in the very same layers. Some human skulls with puncture marks that match leopard teeth exactly. So rain didn't just make life uncomfortable, it compressed the entire world, predators, prey, and people into the same small dry spaces at the same time. And in the middle of all that, one job mattered more than anything: keeping the fire going. Roughly before 40,000 years ago, we're not even sure how reliably humans could start a fire from nothing. There's evidence of controlled fire use going back 400,000 years, possibly a million at Wonderwork Cave in South Africa. But controlling an existing fire and creating one from scratch are 2 very different skills. If your fire went out, you might not get it back. So some groups carried embers, wrapped in green leaves or packed into tinder fungus that could smolder for hours, a biological lighter. When Ötzi the Iceman was found, 5,300 years frozen in the Alps, he was carrying a full fire kit: tinder fungus, flint, iron pyrite, backup tinder. Even then, losing your fire was serious enough to carry dedicated gear against it. So when it rained, priority 1 wasn't shelter, it was the fire. Move it deeper in, shield it, feed it carefully with dry inner wood split from wet logs, or birch bark, which contains a compound called betulin that burns even wet. Someone's entire job during a storm might have been sitting by that fire for hours, just keeping it alive, because that fire was warmth, light, safety, cooked food, and the center of the group's entire social world. Quick pause. If you're the kind of person who finds this stuff genuinely interesting, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This channel goes deep into the parts of history that never make it into the textbooks, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Fire secured, dry, and stuck? So what did people actually do? They made things. Caves are packed with evidence of it. Stone tools in every stage of production. Piles of flaking debris concentrated exactly where someone would sit by the firelight for hours. At Blombo's cave in South Africa, archaeologists found a 100,000-year-old ochre workshop, shells used as mixing bowls, pigment ground into powder, bone tools to apply it. That's not survival, that's a system. Bone needles start appearing around 61,000 years ago. You don't make one of those while running from something. You make it sitting still with hours to spare. And at a Neanderthal site in France, archaeologists found the oldest known piece of string, twisted from plant fiber. In Germany, a 35,000-year-old ivory tool with spiral grooves, a dedicated rope-making device. Someone sat in a cave and built a machine for making cordage. Rope is slow, repetitive, patient work. It's the perfect bad weather task, and it changed everything. Better shelters, snares, tools bound to handles. At Sibudu Cave in South Africa, 77,000-year-old bedding survived. Sedges and rushes layered into sleeping mats, topped with insect-repellent leaves and periodically burned and replaced. People weren't just surviving down there, they were doing pest control 77,000 years ago. Then, the story turns somewhere nobody expects. Art. The paintings in Chauvet Cave, roughly 36,000 years old, show lions, horses, and bears with anatomy and movement so precise they still stop researchers in their tracks. And these paintings aren't near the entrance. They're hundreds of meters deep, through passages you'd have to crawl through, reached by carrying animal fat lamps into total darkness. Nobody does that on a good day. You do it when the rain's been falling for 2 days and there's nothing left to sharpen. And this might be the biggest thing rain ever gave us: culture itself. A 2014 study of the Juhuansi Bushmen found that daytime conversation was mostly practical: land, resources, complaints. But at night, around the fire, over 80% of conversation shifted to stories, songs, and ceremony. The fire changed what people talked about. That's not small talk, that's survival knowledge. Water sources, edible plants, tracking, path from one brain to the next through speech, along with the myths every culture built to explain the rain itself. And rain wasn't only a threat. After it stopped, soft ground meant perfect tracks, rock depressions filled with clean water, some deliberately deepened to hold more. Mushrooms and tubers surfaced, insects swarmed, and termites, one of the most protein-dense foods around, became free protein for anyone who knew when to look. So when it rained, ancient humans did everything that mattered: kept the fire alive, made the tools, sewed the clothing, twisted the rope, ground the pigment, told the stories. Then the rain stopped and they walked out into soft ground covered in perfect tracks, ready for what came next. Boredom didn't exist for them the way it does for you, because when your survival depends on what you make with your hands in the next few hours, you don't get bored, you get creative. If this kind of deep dive is your thing, subscribe to Chillstix so you don't miss the next one, and let me know in the comments what you'd want to see explored next.